Hey everyone, happy International Non-Binary People's Day. My name's Robin. If you're new to my page, it's really good to meet you. My pronouns are they, them. And I'd like to talk a little bit today about why Non-Binary People's Day is super important every year, but specifically with everything that's going on right now, why it's really, really important this year to stand by your non-binary, transgender communities. The reality is that non-binary kind of encompasses quite a large amount of people. I don't have any numbers for you on how many people identify as non-binary or within the non-binary spectrum, but it's becoming more and more every single day as people kind of realise that they're trying to make themselves fit into a two-tick box system, and they just don't, and they just feel, you know, one way or the other that something isn't quite right, and quite often that means that they're kind of living within the non-binary spectrum, and that's great. Right now in the UK, non-binary people aren't legally recognised by their gender. Now that means a lot of different things. It means things like not having non-binary as an option on official certificates like driving licenses, passports, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates. Me and my partner, if we wanted to get married, we'd have to get married as a same-sex couple or as a male-female couple, neither of which are right. So that kind of, you know, well, what do we do? Essentially, it's difficult because there's no real easy way to kind of solve the problem, because non-binary encompasses so many different things. So the solution is not necessarily to have a 3-box system instead of a 2-box system, because non-binary as an identity and non-binary as an umbrella term that encompasses other identities isn't going to fit for everybody still. So just because we could get non-binary on these official documentations, it doesn't necessarily mean that that problem solved. Legal recognition, though, is really, really important. I think that, you know, it's things like having access to, like, legally requiring access to gender-neutral toilets. It means kind of access to single-sex spaces. We don't have any, really. And for non-binary individuals, it's very difficult for us to kind of really embody who we are if we're constantly being told legally that we can't be that. It's really difficult. There's not one solution that is a kind of fix-all here. But I think it's really important to start with trying to figure out how we can make non-binary, in its umbrella term and its identity term, some form of recognised gender, because from a mental health perspective, it really, really, really sucks. It is a kind of wandering around the world perspective, knowing that you are not viewed as the person that you are, and it makes you feel invisible, it makes you feel invalid. Physically, you could be the most kind of popular, surrounded by people person there is, but if you're not legally recognised within your community, your country, then it's incredibly internally lonely. I had to book an appointment for Specsavers recently for my DVLA eye test, and I was looking on the website and I was looking at times, and I was like, oh, they've got MX as an option, they've got mixed as an option, that's great, I'll ring up and book the appointment, because I had to book it over the phone for DVLA. And when I was booking it, they were taking my name and said, do you want, you know, is your name Miss or Mrs? Despite the fact that mix is a option on the website, it's not something that people default to asking because my voice sounds feminine. Non-binary people don't want to have to shout that they're non-binary all the time. It's very tiring correcting people. It's very tiring kind of feeling like you're making things awkward and difficult, because people are constantly making mistakes around you, but you feel like you're the one that's causing an issue. because quite often if they need to make a change, then they make a big deal out of it. You know, it's difficult to kind of to deal with that all the time, and it's not like it's just one-off and it's every now and then, it's all the time. And legal recognition wouldn't change all of that, because a lot of people and a lot of those things are just ingrained into people, and that's just kind of how society is. And legally recognizing non-binary wouldn't change that, but it would go a long way to enforcing the options and making sure that people felt valid. There are plenty of places where I've got my correct title, and there are plenty of places where I haven't, because it's not an option, and it always kind of feels like a punch in the gut getting a letter from those people and saying, "Oh, Miss Robin Hunt." The point I'm trying to make is that today is International Non-Binary People's Day, and it would be amazing to see some steps forward in the rights for non-binary people, because I've been involved in International Women's Days for women where I work, men for International Men's Day where places I've worked, and every single time that one of those rolls around, there's some kind of step forward for men in kind of appreciating their mental health and their kind of physical health when it comes to things like prostate cancer. For women, of course, it's around like pay gaps and equality and workplace equality and all of the stuff that is incredibly important. But what about non-binary people? What is happening today that is pushing non-binary people's lives and rights in the right direction? Nothing. The anti-trans non-binary movement that's going around the world right now is scary, and yes, a lot of it is in the States, a lot of it are in other places around the world, but it affects every single person, because if one person in a community is being disregarded and is being discriminated against, then the whole community is at risk. And right now we are at risk, and we need everybody's help. There are petitions, there are movements that support the non-binary community and the fight for kind of gender recognition. I believe there has been a petition that's been put through Parliament before, but unsuccessfully. We have to keep pushing. We have to let them know that we're not going anywhere, and we have to let them know that we are only going to grow in strength and in number, and people are not going to sit around and wait for governments to do something if they don't hurry up and do it. It's going to become really, really difficult for people in power if they do not start recognising these people. There are anti-trans bills being put through Parliament in the UK right now that stops transgender people from accessing single-sex spaces, and that's terrifying. I don't think it will go through. There seems to be a lot of kind of fight against it, which is great, but the fact that it got as far as it did in the first place is not okay, when there are people fighting for legitimate pushes forward to help people live equally, and they're not getting pushed forward. Legal recognition would also mean gender recognition certificates could be updated for non-binary people. Right now, if you transition in any way and go through the gender recognition process, you can change your gender from female to male or male to female. You can't change it to from female to non-binary or male to non-binary or vice versa, which is really, again, a difficult thing, because going through the gender recognition process, which is something that I'm going to go through, I'm on the wait list to go through, you kind of want that to be in a lot of ways, you want that to be the end of a process that takes a really long time to go through, because wait lists are so long. And actually you don't really get much out of it. You get a kind of tick box exercise where a doctor says, yes, you're non-binary, and yes, you qualify for gender recognition, but of what? I could change my gender from female to male. Wouldn't be right. There is so much happening right now that we need everybody's input and help on. You know, whether we like it or not, we are still a minority community, and we need the voices of every single ally in order to help us to push things forward. The non-binary community is incredible, and we do not deserve to be treated like we are invisible and we are invalid. As a non-binary person sitting here talking to you all, I can very, very confidently say that we do exist, and it's about time that people started treating us like that, because it's exhausting and it is, it's not okay. It's time for, gender neutral languages. It's time to kind of, if we can't bring more genders into the mix, it's time to get rid of them completely. If we can't, a third tick box isn't going to do the job because there are so many other gender identities out there, then let's just get rid of the tick boxes. It doesn't matter what your gender is. This week has been Non-Binary People's Awareness Week, or Non-Binary Awareness Week. I've been putting out a load of content on LinkedIn. Please have a read of it. I think you'll find it, if you're an ally or you're non-binary and you'd like to find out what you can do to help, I think you'll find those resources really, really helpful around kind of using gender inclusive language and pronouns, creating gender inclusive spaces, and how important gender neutral language is when you're addressing groups of people and you don't necessarily know what those genders are going to be. Cisnormativity and heteronormativity are really dangerous things, and there's still things that exist quite heavily. We need to stop that, and the resources that are on my LinkedIn account will provide you with the information to stop. The biggest thing right now is please support non-binary community in our kind of fight for legal recognition. There's petitions, I'll drop them in the link in the caption of this video. Please sign them. We're going to need hundreds of thousands of people to sign this petition in order to get the petition looked at by Parliament, and we want it to be pushed through. We need it to be pushed through. On a lighter note, I'd just like to say thank you to Cloud Call, the people that I work for, the company that I work for, because they sent me some wonderful international non-binary People's Day gifts this year. I'm a bit of a cat fan. I've got 3 cats, so I've got my new cat non-binary People's pin, and this notebook, which I have the t-shirt version for, which is really super cool. So thank you to the HR team and everybody at Cloud Call for that, and to my team at Cloud Call, the marketing team. Always grateful for your support in everything that I'm doing with the LGBTQI+ community and as a non-binary community, that using my pronouns, keeping things gender neutral. For those of you that don't know, we, instead of the term guys, we use the term geese within our team. So it's a lot of, hey geese, have a good weekend geese, and it's just their kind of gender neutral term that we started using when I came out as non-binary. It's massively appreciated. Thank you, everyone. There are so many amazing people in the world that are trying to do the right thing. It's just, as normal, the wrong people are in power, and the wrong people have got the say on whether we can exist or not, and that's not okay. So we need to stand together and fight for everybody to live equally, and a big step in that direction is to get this non-binary legal recognition, so that people that need it can start pushing themselves forward, because it seems like a really nonchalant little thing, and we could just get on with our lives and live, and it wouldn't matter. But it matters. It matters that you feel like you are valid in your community and in your country, and it matters that you are legally protected. It just does, and no matter how much you can not think about it, it's always there. Please, if you feel like you would like to, or if you can, please sign the petitions. Please support your non-binary, your trans non-binary, or transgender communities. There is so much going on with them right now, and they're going to be internally, they're going to be hurting a lot more than they're probably going to let on. So please look after them. If you are part of the community, please look after yourself and reach out to people if you feel like you need help. I hope you geese have an amazing International Non-Binary People's Day. Keep educating yourselves, keep learning, keep looking forward, and we will get there. If you're celebrating today, I hope you have a fantastic time, and I'll see you next time.